CNN 1190.
Welcome back to the Innovation at Work radio show. I'm your host, Winston Edmondson. And today we're going to talk about franchises. I love the story of franchise owners because they all, go through a very deliberate selection process. They decide what they want to do, and they all have various reasons for why they chose their franchise. And I think that story is always fascinating. How did people get to where they are today? So today, I have Brent Daniels, who is the owner of a Bahama Bucks franchise in Lewisville. As you all know, I live in Lewisville, and my kids are always asking us to go to Bahama Bucks. So this is going to be a show that they're going to enjoy hearing about the story, the birth of Bahama Bucks. So Brent, I appreciate you coming out today.
Thanks for having me on your show.
So now Bahama Bucks, I think what most people think of, at least for me, are these really unique trees, these lighted trees out front. Now that is such a cool little feature. Now, are those LED lights? What is that exactly?
Those are actually LED lights. They wrap around the pole, and then the LED lights go through the palms. But they definitely make a statement in the community. I
bet there are people that know those trees, that know exactly what I'm talking about, but didn't know what happened. What's inside. So here's your chance. If you've seen those trees, if you've seen those, they just stand out at night. Now you can go inside because we're going to talk about what is Bahama Buck. So before we talk about the store itself, let's talk about how you got there. You've owned Bahama Bucks here for 3 years, almost 3 years. What were you doing before you were a franchise owner?
Well, before the franchise and before Bahama Bucks, I've been in the hospitality industry for about 20 years. So 6 years I did restaurants, and then for the last 13 years I was with Intercontinental Hotels Group, or Bristol Hotels and Resorts, as a hotel manager. So I was actually the general manager of the Harvey Hotel, DFW Airport.
Very cool.
Before I got into this.
So now I know a lot of people that are going to school for that, and that's a great line of work. That's a corporate ladder that once you start climbing it is usually pretty lucrative because you always have business travelers. You always need good people to run hotels. So why the change of pace? Why did you get away from the hotel management and get into your own basically entrepreneurial move? Okay.
Well, and the hotel industry is a fabulous industry to be in. Talk about a lot of fun, a lot of work, but just a great industry to be in. The company I was with, I'd been with them for 13 years, though, and had been in almost every one of our hotels here in the Dallas area, and my hotel was up for sale. And I knew that when it sold, the new company may or may not keep me. A lot of times the GM's the first one to go, and they keep the rest of the staff. So I actually started planning, what could I do if it sold, and what options I had. And I actually started looking at maybe building a burger joint. And that was kind of the concept I was looking for. And sure enough, when the hotel did sell, my company wanted me to move to San Antonio to a hotel there, and the new company brought in their own general manager. So that's when I started on my path to my own place.
I think preparation is such an important aspect that a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about. Especially with the economy the way it is, if you're in a position that it seems like everything's great and you've got your corner office picked out, you've plotted your course through this company, just remember, you don't own that job. You can be laid off or fired at any time. So I highly recommend you at least consider what would happen if tomorrow I lost my job, or if they wanted to relocate me. My wife's company was talking about moving her to Switzerland, and I don't think the kids and I would enjoy moving to Switzerland. So I think people just really need to remember that they don't own their jobs. They need to consider, what would you do? And, that could just be making sure your resume is polished and you can move on to another corporate job. Or, as I would recommend, and as Brent has shown can be very lucrative in itself, think about starting your own companies. Think about launching your own thing. Now, when I was 19, I had a job paying $55,000 a year. I was a regional manager for an internet banking company, but I just knew it was too good to be true. I was a newlywed, and I had all this money for a 19-year-old, but I knew that it was too good to be true. So I started, in my spare time, an internet development company. When I was laid off, which I predicted, I then could just roll right into this company. So in this case, were you pretty much prepared when this was all announced that you could either move or figure something else out? Were you ready to just immediately roll into a new gig, or were you what stage were you in at that point?
Well, I probably wasn't ready at that point. I actually, I had the concept I had in mind. I knew what I wanted to do. And of course, I think everybody in the hospitality industry, if you've worked in restaurants and hotels all your life, you someday want to do that, that you open your own place. So that's something I always had in the back of my mind. So I kind of had the plans. I had everything kind of in my mind, but, I wasn't ready to open up day one after my hotel sold.
So did you have some severance? I mean, a little something to live off of while you were, finishing the process and trying to dot the final I's and cross the final T's?
Absolutely. The company I worked for was a great company, and they took care of everybody, that did get severanced or lost their job in the sale of the hotel. So that part of it was very good and everything, and it gave me the time to be able to then kind of put the plans in place and then start looking for the land and do everything I needed to do to get my business open.
So now, you said you originally were thinking about doing a hamburger shop, and I think I love hamburgers, and there's not enough good hamburger spots that, the focus is hamburger. You got Fuddruckers, and that's a great hamburger, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of places you can go, so it seems like you were onto something. How did you get derailed? How did you move from a sandwich shop to Bahama Buck Shaved Ice?
Well, part of this, I had the idea for the perfect, and I call it a burger joint. I love just the home style, family owned, kind of the community hamburger place. So, but as I was putting those plans in place, my daughter was in Amarillo over the summer. She was visiting some relatives there, and they would go swimming every day. And at night, they would go to Bahama Bucks to cool down. And she called me up and she said, "Dad, don't open a burger place. You got to open up a Bahama Bucks." And I'm like, "Well, what is a Bahama Bucks?" And she goes, "Well, they sell snow cones and smoothies." And I'm like, "Oh, what a great idea." And she could kind of hear that I really wasn't that interested. And of course, my daughter, 12 at the time, the next night she goes in, gets all the franchise information on it from the shop and brings it back home to me. I start researching it and absolutely fall in love with the concept. So my wife and I did a driving tour. We drove and hit as many Bahama Bucks as we could to try them out, see if we thought it was a workable franchise. Then started going through the interview process with the company, fell in love with the company itself, the people that run the company, and the burger joint was gone, and here came Bahama Bucks.
If you're just joining us, this is the Innovation at Work radio show. Of course, I'm Winston Edmondson, your host, and I'm joined by Brent Daniels, who's the owner of the Bahama Bucks franchise in Lewisville. And we're talking about how we got started. It's a pretty fascinating story. And since, as I spoke about earlier, I have a little bit of preaching in my blood. My father went to seminary, and so your story, you talked about how your daughter kind of was the driving force that made you shift from opening your own burger joint to getting this Bahama Bucks franchise. And obviously, you have no regrets because you guys are doing great. Reminds me of a Bible verse, Proverbs 19:20. Listen to advice and accept instruction, and in the end, you will be wise. So, you know what? We always talk about surrounding yourself with positive people that are going to lift you up and give you a pat on the back on whatever you try, but they're also going to be giving you ideas. So this, I think, takes it to the next level. Not only should you surround yourself with wise people, but they're not just there to look at. Listen to them. And in this case, you had a 12-year-old daughter that had a pretty good idea. A lot of parents wouldn't put much stock in what their 12-year-old had to say. So I really appreciate that. You heard her out, looked at what all the information she provided you, and said. Now I hope she got a nice bonus or some sort of reward for putting you on this track.
I gave her a job, and she still works there.
Oh, really? Very cool. Not quite what I had in mind, but that works. In this economy, maybe that is a good thing. So, you know what I would say, like Ed Young, how he makes everything rhyme, I would say listen to suggestions and then go back and do some personal reflection. Basically, you hear people out, hear all these suggestions, because when you talk about launching something, you're going to get ideas from other people on how to tweak it, or maybe you should do this and that. I think you should hear all those ideas and then go back and kind of reflect how would you feel in doing this move, or what would that be like? And if you kind of go at it with a humble heart, I think people can really find what they were meant to do, what their God-given gifts, would help them be successful at. So that's that's my take on this whole thing. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to continue talking about Bahama Bucks because I want to find out about the franchise. What is it like? What can people expect that maybe have never been? And I also want to talk about that process. What are some of those things you were looking for where you said, you know what, I've got this suggestion for my daughter, but here are the things that I need. If this is really going to work, I want to make sure this franchise does this or offers this. Otherwise, it's a deal breaker. So we'll talk about that. Ike, about how much time we have left? About a minute? Okay. Well, then let's talk a little bit about what people can expect when they come to Bahama Bucks.
Well, one thing they can expect, we kind of claim to be the ultimate tropical dessert experience. And one thing's when you come to Bahama Bucks, we have the shaved ice and the snow, but we have so much more. You come in, we have the shaved ice, we do smoothies, we have some incredible coffee drinks that you can get either hot, over ice, frozen and blended. We do fresh lemonades, limeades, we do fresh fruit cups. So it's not just the shaved ice, even though that's what we're really known for. But the other thing you come into, and especially our shop, it's almost like a small vacation. You come in there, the music's playing, We've got plenty of seating, we've got board games for people to play if they want to play Scrabble or Apples to Apples. We've got ring games on the patio. We've got tetherball that the families go out and play till all hours. So there's a lot more than just the shaved ice.
Sounds like a lot of fun. And I can tell you that my liberal assistant here is chowing down on a cherry sublime snow blast. And thumbs up. She likes it. This is the Innovation at Work radio show. We'll be right back after the break.